Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 214. One day after the Netflix Filthy Rich Jeffrey Epstein documentary aired, we're getting questions like this from the New York Post. When will the feds arrest Ghislaine Maxwell? And I hoped that this would be the response to the documentary, the outrage, because the documentary itself doesn't really shed any more light on the investigation. From that point of view, it's really a non-starter, right? They don't go into the Wexner ties. They don't talk about Dubin. They don't talk about, any of these people that were wrapped up tight with Jeffrey Epstein. That wasn't the point they were trying to get across, I don't think. But it is important that these kinds of questions are being asked by those in the media. And the New York Post is certainly asking that question tonight. We all know that Ghislaine Maxwell should be in prison. At the very least, she should be arrested and questioned. Can we at least get to that point? Once she's arrested and she is questioned, I have zero doubt in my mind that she will start spilling the beans and get ready to flip. Because what she has facing her coming down the pipe, the sort of charges that she's going to have thrown at her, are the kind of charges that make hardened cartel members and mafioso and gang members roll over on their homies and rat. There's zero chance Ghislaine Maxwell was built for that kind of interrogation. She's definitely calculating, she's definitely cold, and she definitely was built for the spy game. But as far as taking the fall for everybody, I highly doubt she's built for that. And I have no doubt that the people that were running her, the people that were in charge of her portion of the operation, I'm sure those people have themselves quite insulated. So if Ghislaine Maxwell does get arrested, you should look for her to start ratting right away. Looking to cop a deal, looking to put a plea deal in with the attorneys, because there's zero chance that this lady is going to take the full brunt of all of this on her shoulders and not start ratting out the other co-conspirators. And if you can't get her right now, then that's fine. You start at the bottom of the pyramid scheme, as they called it. We know it as a criminal operation, a criminal enterprise, but a pyramid scheme works well too. Start at with the people on the very bottom. You bring them in. They don't have nowhere near the kind of money it takes to litigate against the federal government. So you bring them in and you start going to work on them. You charge them under the RICO statutes. You make sure it's very difficult for them to even put up a defense. And that sounds harsh, but that's the way it works in federal court. That's what the federal government does in most cases. For some reason, in this case, they haven't done that. But in most federal cases, the federal government is ruthless. They'll seize your assets. They'll freeze the assets of your loved ones if they think you're involved in money laundering, and so on and so forth. But somehow in this case, these people have avoided all of that. They have avoided every little bit of what comes along with something like RICO. And somehow, some way, there isn't an outcry over this. But I think what we're going to see in the coming days, in the coming weeks, in the coming months, the more people who are aware of what's going on, I think that the outcry is going to become much louder. So let's jump into this article from the New York Post and see what they have to say about Ghislaine Maxwell and her finally being brought to justice. The headline: when will feds arrest Jeffrey Epstein fixer, co-conspirator, co-child molester, etc., Ghislaine Maxwell? This article was authored by Ben Feuerherd. 9 months after Attorney General William Barr warned that Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators should not rest easy, the pedophile's alleged madam, co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, remains at large and is using a potential criminal investigation to thwart civil action against her. Now, this is what we were talking about with the lawsuit with Annie Farmer, how she went to the judge to get that lawsuit either thrown out or moved to the court in New Mexico, and the judge decided to delay it instead, considering there's a criminal case supposedly active at the same time, running concurrently as this civil case. So that was the first indication that we had in quite some time that Maxwell was in fact under investigation. So it looks like Maxwell is certainly being looked at. It looks like she is certainly under investigation. But my question is, how much more evidence could you possibly need? Just on the circumstantial evidence alone against Ghislaine Maxwell, it warrants a trip down to the station for a talk. Maxwell is currently a co-defendant in several civil cases brought by alleged Epstein trafficking victims. Among them is Annie Farmer, who claims in her suit against Maxwell and the profiteers of Epstein's estate that she was lured to his New Mexico ranch as a teenager and sexually abused by the pair. And you all know the story of Annie at this point. We all know what happened to her at the New Mexico ranch. We know that Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein both did what they did to her, and they both got away scot-free. We know that Annie said that reported it, and nobody did anything about it. Just like when Maria told the FBI about what was going on. Nobody lifted a finger. Nobody could be bothered to track down people like this. They're way too busy tracking down, 2-bit criminals. And they wonder why nobody has any faith in the Justice Department. They wonder why nobody has any faith in the justice system as a whole. The two-tier justice system in this country, and from what I'm hearing from listeners from around the globe elsewhere, is an absolute joke that needs to be shattered and smashed into 1 million pieces and tossed into the winds of history. Because the things that these people are able to get away with, while you and I are held to a different set and standard of rules, it makes my mind hurt, my head hurt, thinking about it. There should be no situation where they have one set of rules for them and one set of rules for us. The rules are the rules. According to the suit, Maxwell allegedly forced Farmer to undress in view of Epstein after promising to give her a massage. Maxwell touched intimate parts of Annie's body against her will for the sexual benefit of Maxwell and Epstein, the suit states. Maxwell exposed Annie's breast and groped her, it adds. So basically what this does is it not only paints Ghislaine Maxwell as a co-conspirator, right? As the brains behind the operation, as somebody who was involved in procuring these young ladies. This puts her as somebody who was assaulting young children as well, a 16-year-old girl. And that's why when we were talking a little bit earlier about Bill Clinton dating Ghislaine Maxwell, I've seen some people talk about how that, it's disinformation, or we shouldn't focus on stuff like that, when in reality it's a pretty big part of the story. Because what it does is it continues to build the profile for the person that Bill Clinton is. And the fact that Bill Clinton has such poor judgment that he was running around with a pedophile, and I don't mean Jeffrey Epstein, folks. I mean Ghislaine Maxwell. What she was doing here to Annie Farmer, this isn't the actions of just a co-conspirator. This is a co-pedophile, especially in this specific case. If you believe what Annie's saying, and I certainly do, then that means that Ghislaine Maxwell is not only a co-conspirator, that means she's not only an enabler, that means she is also someone who assaulted an underage girl. That's the kind of person that Bill Clinton should be spending his time around. That's the kind of person that Bill Clinton should be hobnobbing around with. Folks, that has nothing to do with being any sort of disinformation. That's a part of the story. It needs to be added to the catalog, and it continues to build the profile against Bill Clinton and the lies and falsehoods he's told throughout this case. Don't you think that warrants further examination? I most certainly do. Through her attorney, Farmer has sought to depose Maxwell and have her respond to written questions related to the alleged sexual abuse. But the former fixer, co-conspirator, has successfully dodged a grilling in the case, citing an ongoing criminal investigation into co-conspirators of Epstein, all while not admitting she herself is being probed by the feds. And again, it's more of her duck and dodge moves, right? She's rope-a-doping right now. That's exactly what Maxwell is up to. Her strategy is to rope-a-dope right now. Act like, she's taken one on the chin, when in reality, she needs more time to continue to formulate her strategy. That's what they like to do. They like to drag their feet through the courts. They like to make it long and an arduous process from the beginning to the end that is completely and just utterly dragged out. Look how long these survivors have been litigating against Jeffrey Epstein and his estate. Look how long they've been fighting this battle. And the Epstein estate and people like Ghislaine Maxwell, they will not give an inch, folks. They will never relinquish their power. It must be pried from their fingertips. And the only people that can do that, unfortunately, are the federal government, the SDNY, the other districts that are looking into this case. But they have seemed to be so far ineffective at doing their jobs. You heard it from the girls' own mouths in the documentary. The FBI has done a piss-poor job here chasing down these co-conspirators and bringing justice to this case. An investigation into Epstein's accomplices was alluded to by Barr days after the pedophile's suicide in a lower Manhattan lockup and has been mentioned repeatedly by the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York, according to court filings. Well, forgive me if I don't trust Attorney General Barr, okay? Mr. I saw the video, go ahead and believe me. Sorry, I don't believe you, Attorney General Barr. You've done nothing to prove yourself to me as somebody that should be believed. In fact, you're just another retreaded bureaucrat that's been around in Washington, D.C. for way too long. Talk about draining the swamp, huh? Talk about being part of the swamp. It's such you know what it's like? Washington, D.C., folks? It's like WWE. They all hate each other on the stage, right? When they're all in the public eye, they all hate each other. But in the back room, they're all high-fiving and backslapping as the rest of us get screwed. So, no, I don't believe Attorney General Barr. And I don't believe Attorney General Barr has my best interest at heart. I don't believe any of these clowns do. And their actions certainly would not lead me to give them the benefit of the doubt here. So he might allude to the fact that there's an investigation. Berman might talk about the fact that there's an investigation. But so far, we have not seen any tangible proof that that's occurring. A spokesperson for the Southern District of New York declined to comment on the investigation. And that's pretty common, right? While I think it's BS in this case, because they should give an update. If Berman's going to come out and publicly call out Prince Andrew, there's no reason that he shouldn't be giving regular updates at this point, right? Why talk about it just then and never have anything else to say about it? But usually the FBI doesn't say anything about what they're investigating. They won't confirm, they won't deny, they'll just investigate. So I'm not shocked that they didn't return a call and comment on the whole investigation aspect, because that's certainly something that is pretty typical for the FBI. Maxwell's attorney cited the investigation in an effort to block her testimony in the Farmer case. Again, she's trying to escape discovery here. She does not want to have to provide any information or testimony during the discovery phase because she knows that Annie is telling the truth and she knows that she, in fact, is a liar. And the discovery phase will go a long way to prove that. So what she does, she has to buy more time. Just like when her mom was supposedly sick, gravely ill, she had to leave the country. Her mom wasn't sick. And the court allows it time and time again. But don't worry, folks, Barr is all over it. The Southern District of New York has publicly and repeatedly announced its ongoing criminal investigation into alleged Epstein co-conspirators on the same topic as plaintiff alleges in this case. Maxwell's attorney wrote in a May 13th letter to Manhattan federal judge Deborah Freeman seeking to stay discovery in the case. And again, folks, that's all you need to hear. All the other stuff is BS. All the other stuff is just legal mumbo-jumbo. She wants a stay of discovery in the case. She does not want to present evidence and have evidence presented against her because she understands the ramifications. She understands what's at stake, and she knows she does not have a leg to stand on. So again, she will continue to delay the process, and the court continues to give her the lateral ability to do so. And it's unexplainable. Denial of a stay Particularly, a stay of Miss Maxwell's deposition, pending outcome of the criminal investigation, could impair her Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination, added her attorney, Laura Menninger. Well, while I agree with the Fifth Amendment being very important and your ability to employ the Fifth Amendment being very important in your own defense when necessary, I think that, it's kind of telling that every single person in Jeffrey Epstein's orbit that was questioned under oath here invoked their Fifth Amendment right. And we saw it with Epstein, especially when he was being, talked to during those depositions. Farmer's attorney, David Boies, noted in his response that Maxwell has not publicly admitted she herself is the center of a federal investigation, but is nevertheless using it to shield herself. Again, she will not confirm or deny, but she will ask the judge for a stay from the discovery phase. Now, what I'm thinking is that the judge has to know more than we do, right? They can't be that inept, can they? Can the communication be that broken within the justice system? I guess it can be, but you would think that the judge would reach out to the prosecutors in this case, or have her clerk or the office reach out to prosecutors and ask them where they're at with the criminal investigation of Ghislaine Maxwell, and if this was a request that should be honored. You would think that's the case, right? Well, who knows? Because we have no information. All we know is that the judge granted the stay. Maxwell has provided no information about the subject matter of the criminal investigation into Epstein's co-conspirators, the status of the investigation, or even disclosed whether she herself is a target of the Southern District's investigation, Boies wrote. And again, he is completely right about that. We've heard nothing from Maxwell or her lawyers when it comes to that sort of situation. When plaintiff's counsel asked Maxwell's counsel for information about the criminal investigation during their meet and confer, Maxwell's counsel refused to provide any details, he added. Of course, they're playing shadow games like they always do. Ghislaine Maxwell was built for this shit. How many times do I have to say it? She was bred for this. Like a fine racehorse is bred to hit that track, she was bred for spycraft. I am 100% convinced of that at this point. Freeman agreed Maxwell could potentially incriminate herself by giving a deposition and ordered that she not be required to sit for one as part of the suit. Maxwell, who is apparently in hiding, has not given testimony or a public statement since Epstein's arrest and suicide. Attorneys for Farmer and Maxwell did not immediately respond. I think the thing that we should take away from this article, at least in my opinion, what I'm certainly taking away from it, is at least the question is being asked now. And this is what I thought was going to occur after the documentary, that more people would start asking these questions. More of these journalists in the print media would start asking these questions. Because there's been a lot of other stuff going on, right? We're in an election year, we have a pandemic, massive job loss. So, there's a lot of other things that are dominating the news cycle. So not everybody sees this case. Not everybody sees the twists and turns. But now, after the Netflix documentary, we're going to see a huge uptick in that, and already we're seeing it. So I hope that we see more questions like this, and I hope more outlets start, asking questions such as, when will Ghislaine Maxwell be arrested? And hopefully with the pressure not only from independent media, but also from some of these print outlets that get on board, I think that will be enough to push the prosecution in the direction to, at the very least, start making arrests in this case. Because it's obvious that just with the evidence that's available to us via the articles we have been reading for the past 230 plus days straight without missing a day, there is zero doubt that there is enough there to go to a grand jury and get an indictment at the very least. I guess the question remains, folks. What's the holdup? If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, everybody. I hope you all have a great night, and I will be back tomorrow.